Hello again, this is Tim Baldridge, and for the functions today that I want to talk about in our Function of the Day series is Interpose and Interleave. Now these are two functions that sound the same and they do kind of the same thing, but they have two very different uses. So for instance, let's look at the first one, Interleave. Now what Interleave does is it takes two seeks. So we're going to do something like A, B, and C, and 1, 2, and 3. And the output seek is these things interleaved, right? And I think we can even have some more. So A, B, and C. And C, we have the A1, A, B2, B, C3, C, so on and so forth. So that's kind of cool. It's a way of taking the first item from the first seek, second from the second, or first, second, third, right? So how is that useful? Well, sometimes when I'm writing macros, for instance, I will use something like this. And that what I would do is something like, let's see here, repeatedly gen sim, and then we could do something like this. So let, and what this would do is create a list of bindings bound to each one of these variables. So see here, our first generated symbol is now 1, the second generated symbol is 2, third is 3. And I often use this, why can I not think of this right now, unquote splicing, to kind of explode this interleave into that location. So this is kind of a way of pairing up these symbols with the values that I want bound to them. We could also do this if we had passed in some symbols such as, you know, A, B, and C. We could easily create a let binding this way. And so sometimes when I'm writing macros, I have the need to have symbols that are passed in bound to values. And we could even do that like this. So we could say, let's say these values passed in are databases and we want to connect to those. We could do something like this. We could say map, and then in our function, we would have a symbol, and we'd have another sims and sims. So we're mapping over our sims, and then here we can have another syntax quoting that says db connect sim, like so. Make db let, and then sims. So this is just an example of something that I do a fair amount. So we could do here, make db let, and our symbols are A, B, and C, and then we've created a let where each one of these is bound to the connection after we connect. Okay, kind of trivial example, but that's often how I use interleave, mostly in macros. I'm trying to think of other cases where I've used it. Can't think of any right now. Interpose is the other one. Now interpose is a little bit different. We have a separator such as sep, and then we'll get a sequence, and we have a value separator, value separator, value separator, value separator, right? So it interposes sep in between each one of these values. Now what's kind of interesting about this, actually there's two overrides for this. That's interesting. Oh, because it's a transducer as well. Let's take a look at that. So if we do into this interpose sep, and then we do range 10, it works exactly the same way. That's kind of cool. So we can use this in a transducer context as well. Now, how I often use this is in conjunction with string or stir. We do apply stir, interpose. And we're going to interpose in between here, comma, range 10. What we get back is comma separated values. And what's kind of interesting about this is that we get commas only in between and not at the beginning or the end. If we were to use interleave with something like this, interleave with maybe a repeated sequence of commas, and actually we can try that. So we'll do interleave. If we do this, we get a comma at the beginning, right? And that may not be exactly what we want. So for instance, I often use this when I want to quote, when I want quotes around my values. So if these were quoted comma separated values, and we did something like this, you would see the problem. That's just fantastic. Let's print it this way. There we go. The problem we have is we have this quote at the beginning and none at the end, right? And here with Interpose, we kind of run into the same thing. Let's do. It's still not exactly what we want, but now at least we only have commas in between the values and not at the beginning or the end. And we could trivially do something like, and there's a better way of doing this with string builders, but we won't get into that today. Like this, so, and then do this at the end, and obviously this will copy the string. Strings are immutable in Clojure and in Java, so this will copy however long this string is, again, to add this thing onto it. Alternatively, we could probably do a concat here. Let's just do that. I mean, this gets a little messy. There we go. So now we have our comma-separated quoted values. So what we're doing there is we're using apply on string. The apply says that the last argument needs to be a sequence. So we have a prefix of quote, we have our interpose, but then we're also concatenating onto the end of that. And I guess we could probably use cons as well here. Or conj, just so it looks a little better. There, I like that. Ooh, that added it to the beginning. And we'll go back to the way it was. So concat works. At any rate, you see what we're doing here. You know, this is not the way to build up large strings and, you know, commas. If you're going to do a lot of comma separated data, often it's better, you know, break out the string builder from you know, the Java utils and build it up that way. The problem with that approach is just sometimes it's, you know, it is imperative. Which means you know, create the string builder and then you say, you know, add as you loop over the data you're building up. Interpose is often just a nice clean way that I've used to kind of just get it done. No, clean isn't the word. Fast way, easy way to just get it done. I mean, I wrote this code in 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I would have to look up string builder because I don't use it very much, and you know, go through all that. So interleave and interpose, two things that are functions that I don't use a lot of, but when I need them, they come in very handy. That's the tutorial for today. Thank you for watching.